Hey man, that's a pretty sweet theory you got there. I wish I could help you out more on it, but I always tell people that I have my own theory that I'm working on, but truth to tell, all I really have is bits and pieces, and maybe someday I could just sit down with it, try to put it all together, and maybe I'd come up with something. I have a feeling that a lot of these characters, something is happening to them, and in a way they're connected by way of a chain reaction in which one character's actions either affect the outcome for someone else or they mirror the similar decision made by someone else. There's this whole thing about see you in the next life, brother. And Michael said once that he was an artist in a previous life. And we also know that Claire's ex-boyfriend Thomas was an artist. So, for an example of a character's actions mirroring those of another, perhaps Michael was Thomas in a previous life. And what happened is Thomas has walked away from his son. So maybe fate, or God, or call it what you will, looked down upon that and said, you know what, Thomas? You walked away from your son, and I don't like that you did that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you live that life over again. This time, you're going to have to walk away from your son. It's not going to be free will that makes you walk away from your son. It's going to be fate. So I think anytime you make a mistake in your life, do the wrong thing with your free will, you're going to live a life in which fate forces you into that same decision, and it's going to be against your will this time that you do it. Because you see, Michael didn't want to walk away from his son, but that's what he ended up having to do. He ended up having to feel the same pain and remorse that Thomas should have felt when he walked away from his son. But in Thomas's case, it was free will. In Michael's case, it was fate. So Michael's life was Thomas's punishment. And I'm sure that if I thought hard enough, I could come up with more parallels like that. I haven't tried to do that yet, but if anyone's interested in that, that would be fun to do. I also have a theory about John Locke's legs. I don't think they got broken in the past. I think they got broken in the future, and that's why he doesn't want to get off the island, which I know doesn't make an ounce of sense because 2 hours before the crash, John Locke was sitting on the plane with his legs broken. But that's only his memory that's telling him he was on the plane with broken legs. Maybe he was on the plane in the future and the plane went back in time and people were reset back to their condition at whatever time they arrived in, which I know sounds retarded, but as far as the island itself goes, well, we have to assume that if the world is ending, it's probably going to end because of a nuclear war. It's either that or global warming, which you could go both ways with that. If it was global warming, that would explain why the island was at the North Pole, because maybe the North Pole is that hot, in 200 years from now. But, and then they have to have the electromagnetic pulse, and maybe the people who are in Antarctica, who are, you say, well, if this is global warming and this is the island 200 years in the future, then where are these two guys that are stationed in Antarctica who are reading this, seeing this pulse and calling Penny up and everything? And it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe what they saw was something from the future. So in order for Penny to find the island, she's going to have to go to the future to find it. And she's going to have to go to the future in which the entire world is just a big ball of flames except for this area that's protected by electromagnetic pulses or whatever. I don't know. The other way to go is nuclear war, of course, in which makes more sense because of the quarantine signs on the hatches, which... the island itself seems to originate from a place in which the world has already ended because of those quarantine signs, which are telling people not to go outside because there's radiation out there. But for some reason, they go outside and they're just fine. So what's that? Well, I think it's possible, however unlikely, that the island originates from a place in time after the world has ended. Somehow the island came back in time to before the world ended, and maybe it happened after Desmond got there. Maybe Desmond actually saw the world end, and he just barely got to the island in time and got away from it. Maybe it happened while he was out on that sailing race, and all this nuclear war happened, and he just happened to get saved by being brought to the island. Of course, then again, that kind of takes away the whole intrigue of the idea that Penny's father was trying to get him away from his daughter. Who knows if that's really what he was trying to do? I don't know. And it doesn't help anything that you got Thomas's painting in that guy's office either. Here we go again with that. I don't know. Maybe there's a connection there. And what was the other one? There was something else. Well, I guess, and I have this theory about dreams in real life. I think a lot of this has to do with dreams. Uh, I know I'm just, that's just a blanket statement that has no real basis, but I think that in a dream, if you have a dream in real life where you die, I think that actually happened. I think you died in another life and you were teleported somehow to this life, and when you wake up you think it was all a dream, and all of a sudden you have all these memories come flooding into your head as the dream fades out, and these memories come flooding into your head and you realize that this was your life the entire time. But memory is so susceptible to manipulation. It's hard to know for sure. I mean, I've had times where I woke up, didn't know where I was. I started looking around like, where the heck am I? I'm sure a lot of people have had that happen to them. And maybe the reason that happens is because you just got to this life, and your memories are now being uploaded to you slowly. I don't know. I guess that's kind of silly, but I think some of these characters, I wonder if they're flashbacks, it's really them in the flashbacks, or if it's them in a previous life, or if it's a different body that they were in, or whatever. I don't know. I just want. I would be willing to I would be willing to bet money that by the end of season 4, possibly even season 3, we're going to see a character have a flashback, and in the flashback, they're going to die. So chew on that one for a little while.